Lindsay O'Kinnon here from Fiction Atlas Press, bringing you another Indie Connection. Today I'd like to tell you about some indie books that you might enjoy if you're a fan of Don't Go to Sleep by Bryce Moore. The first book I have for you is called Anatomy of a Darkened Heart by Christy Stratos. The only way to survive the Whitestone family is to escape them. Abigail Whitestone is the eldest of the 3 Whitestone children, and the most tormented. The room darkens and the time seems to stop when she is born. But is it really her fault? Is she as evil as Mother insists, or does it forebode a life of abuse and cruelty? With only one positive influence in her life, that of her nanny, Abigail tries her best to stay out of Mother's way. But Mother always seems to be present when there's a chance to hurt, and Father is no use at all. If she could just keep the attentions of the wealthy and handsome Conrad Scott until he proposes, he could be her lifeline. But after a violent accident and a disturbing series of events that permanently warp Abigail's mental state, she finds herself drawn to stay in the very home of her abuse, and she'll do anything to force her siblings to stay too. Anything. The second book I have for you is called The Axeman by Ray Celestin. The Axeman stalks the streets of the Big Easy. New Orleans, 1919. In a town filled with gangsters, voodoo, and jazz trumpets sounding from the dance halls, a sense of intoxicating mystery often beckons from the back alleys. But when a serial killer roams the sultry nights, the corrupt cops can't see the clues. That is, until a letter from the Axeman himself is published in the newspaper, proclaiming that any home playing jazz music will be spared in his next attack. 3 individuals set out to unmask the Axeman: the police detective in charge of the official investigation, who struggles to find any leads, his former boss, newly released from prison and working with the mafia, and a secretary at the Pinkerton Detective Agency, who stumbles upon the clues that could change everything. The third book I have for you is called The Unknown Beloved by Amy Harmon. Chicago, 1923. 10-year-old Danny Flanagan returns home to find police swarming the house, her parents dead. Michael Malone, the young patrolman assigned to the case, discovers there's more to the situation, and to Danny Flanagan herself, than the authorities care to explore. Malone is told to shut his mouth, and Danny is sent away to live with her spinster aunts in Cleveland. 15 years later, Michael Malone is summoned to Cleveland to investigate a series of murders that have everyone stumped, including his friend and famed prohibition agent Elliot Ness, now Cleveland's director of safety. There, in a city caught in the grip of a serial killer, Danny and Malone cross paths once again. Malone is drawn to Danny in her affinity for the dead and compassion for the destitute. It doesn't take long for him to realize that she could help him solve his case. A terror descends on the city, and Malone and Danny confront the dark secrets that draw them together. It's a race to find the killer or risk becoming his next victims. And the last book I have for you is called Madness in the Ruins by John A. Connell. A mutilated body, no witnesses. The only clue, a message. Those who I have made suffer will become saints, and they shall lift me up from hell. Winter, 1945. Munich is in ruins, and a savage killer is stalking the city. U.S. Army investigator Mason Collins enforces the law in the American zone of occupation. This post is his last chance to do what he loves most, being a homicide detective. But he gets more than he's bargained for when the bodies start piling up. The city devolves into panic, and the army brass start breathing down his neck. Then the murderer makes him a target. Now it's a high-stakes duel, and to win it, Mason must bring into deadly play all that he values: his partner, his career, even his life. Okay, that's all for me this week. I'll see you next week on the Indie Connection. Bye!